Welcome to Life Abridged with your host, Eric Wallier. Run it.
Wow, guys, here we are. I don't know if you've heard the big podcast news yet, but Joe Rogan has signed an exclusive deal with Spotify. So his podcast is only going to live on Spotify in a few months in September. And it's pretty crazy, I think. Pretty interesting. There's rumors that he signed like a $100 million plus deal, which is insane. But I mean, it makes sense just how big he is. It would have to be a huge deal. I think that was a great move for Spotify too. I'm curious if you'll have to have premium to get it without ads, which I think is how it'll be. I'm not actually sure how that works. Spotify, not premium anymore. I used to use the free version, but I've had premium for a while now, so I'm not really sure. But if you do have to pay for it, I think that would kind of suck. Joe might lose some of his audience. He probably will anyways, but I still think it was a good move by Spotify. I mean, if I was offered hundreds of millions of dollars, I would do almost anything. I haven't seen their video interface yet. I know Spotify, they're either already doing that or they're planning on doing it. I heard something about it before, but obviously they will have the audio and the video version. So that's pretty cool. I'll have to look into that if they are doing the video versions right now. See if I could upload my video to Spotify along with the audio, which I already do the audio, but I would like the video to be on there too, because video, I think, adds a lot to the overall feel of a podcast. I mean, I know pretty much whenever possible, I choose the video versions of podcasts, not the audio versions. Either if that's because the podcast I'm listening to has a lot of visual elements to it, like some people I watch do a lot of stuff on the internet, or they react to stuff, and it makes it a lot easier to listen to and experience if you can also see what they are seeing. So there's that. And I mean, even just like regular podcasts where it's people just talking to one another, I like watching the video version when they're together, just to see, how their chemistry is, how, how they're kind of navigating their way through the conversation. I don't know if that makes sense, but I don't know. I just like watching them talk and interact with a visual element. I think it just kind of adds to it. It's interesting, though, with this whole Corona thing. A lot of the podcasts I watch are now doing it remotely, like the hosts are just doing it from their homes over Zoom or whatever, or Discord probably. But that doesn't have the same feel to me. Like, I'll still watch those videos, but there's this real quality to it when they do it together as opposed to together over the internet. I really don't think it's the same. I don't know why. I mean, it's just a podcast, just audio is the main part, but that video element, I do think really adds something to it. So, yeah, Spotify. Wow. I do like Spotify. Like I said, I do have premium, so I don't mind the move. That'll be interesting to see play out, though. It reminded me of Ninja going over to Mixer. I feel like if Joe Rogan got like $100 million, Ninja had to get a good amount. I don't know if the real number ever came out or if there's like actually good sources, but I remember when it first happened, no one really had a general idea. I think people were saying around like 10 million, maybe at the most, but I think it might have been more than that, because I mean, Ninja was also huge. Not so much anymore, but he was. So I feel like his deal was probably very, very big. But anyway, moving on. Today, I wanted to talk about my fitness journey, how I've been active throughout my entire life. And I'm definitely an active person, so I have a lot to say about it. Growing up, I was always playing sports with the neighbors, with friends. When I wasn't doing that, my mom would always take me hiking, or we go someplace or another outside. My mom loves the outdoors. I love the outdoors. So yeah, from a young age, I've always been a active person, a physically fit person, I would say. I've always been interested in stuff like that. And yeah, so that was my childhood, just playing sports, like as much as I can, being outside as much as I can. And then, well, when I was a kid, I played sports with my friends, like I said, and then I also played a lot of organized sports. I played, I don't know, flag football, soccer. I played baseball, a little bit of basketball when I was really young, and that's about it. Going into middle school, I played volleyball, and then I played football. I think that's all I did in middle school. And then in high school, I played football and I played rugby. I played football for 2 years, I think, and then rugby for all 4. I'm pretty sure that's what I did. And then I didn't start like working out as like a thing until I think it was my senior year of high school. I got a gym membership and just started working out, pretty much exclusively lifting weights. I remember at the time I didn't do like any cardio, just, I don't know, I would say like 5 days a week in the gym, just lifting weights, which was good. It's not what I do now, and it's not really what I'd recommend to people, but that is what some people prefer to do, and I guess it's whatever you like to do. But yeah, I would say I did that for, I don't know, a few years, maybe less, maybe more, of just pretty much strictly lifting weights, working out. I mean, I still played sports here and there in college. I didn't play any sports, but like unorganized stuff I would do all the time. I would play hockey at my friend's house. He would build an ice rink in the winter. I would always be playing pickup football, sometimes pickup basketball, stuff like that, and then random stuff here and there. But when it came to like working out, it was pretty much just weight stuff. And then after that, I started wanting to get away from just weightlifting. I kind of lost interest in it, for one, and also I would kind of just hurt myself every once in a while. I was never the best weightlifter. I didn't always have perfect form. I got kind of lazy, and I've never been like very strong. I found myself not progressing. So I was like, I don't know, I'm kind of over this. So I started looking for other ways to work out, stay active, and I found yoga. That's pretty much what I replaced a lot of my working out with. Yoga and a lot of cardio stuff, like mainly running. So once I made that switch, I pretty much stopped weightlifting altogether. It wasn't immediate, but it was kind of a slow transition. That was probably 2-3 years ago, maybe longer. I'm not sure. But anyways, yeah, I started doing hot yoga, regular yoga, just doing like basic runs, stuff like that. And I really liked it. I still do yoga today. I don't run as much, but I still will sometimes do that. And funnily enough, the reason I started doing yoga was hot yoga. That was like the first class I had done, was because of Joe Rogan and his love for hot yoga. It convinced me to try it, and I'm glad I did. When I first started, hot yoga was nothing like I've ever done before. Where I did it, they would do a 90-minute class, always the same exact routine every single time. And you'd be in like 100 plus degree room with super high humidity. And it was a workout, to say the least. I mean, 90 minutes is a long time, and it was really hard. The first couple times I did it, I got like super dizzy, was super close to passing out. I would get dehydrated, which isn't safe, but that's just kind of what happened. Although every time I would finish and then just go into the locker room and be so calm, so relaxed, I would feel incredible. You just sweat everything out of you, you work everything out of you, you work yourself to exhaustion, and then you kind of get the benefits from it immediately. I would just feel so good, and it would make it so worth it every single time. So I did that for a while. Like I said, I was doing like cardio stuff, mostly running. And yeah, I think I would supplement like hot yoga with regular yoga classes at the gym I went to. For one reason, hot yoga is really hard, like I said, and it's also really expensive. Like, I wasn't paying it at the time, but the place I was going, I would buy packs of classes, which was kind of cheaper than just buying single class passes, which were like $20 a class, which is crazy. But I mean, they don't have like a ton of clientele, and they have like a really big building and a lot of expenses, so I get why it is that expensive, but it's definitely expensive, so I wouldn't do that as much as I wanted to, at least at the time. And at my gym, they just had like regular yoga classes, so I would do those, and it was nice to kind of supplement them with each other. And then during that time, every once in a while I would work with weights, but it was a lot more rare. And yeah, that was that. And that's pretty much the same track I was on for a while. Basically, just yoga. And then, like I said, I would still be playing sports and stuff, but I don't really count that as working out. I would pretty much just do that until I decided I wanted to run a half marathon, which I decided that in early 2019, so like a year and a half ago. I at first wanted to run a marathon, but then I was like, yeah, that's too much. So I decided to run a half marathon, and I started training really hard for that, running 3-4 times a week, and then just doing yoga once or twice a week whenever I could fit it in. Really easy stuff, easy classes. I wasn't doing a ton of hot yoga at the time. Every once in a while I would. But I basically pivoted to exclusively running long distances, which was good. When I have a goal, I find it easier to do like whatever I'm doing. So knowing I wanted to run that half marathon whenever I was going to do it really kept me going. It really kept me pushing myself. So that was pretty much an enjoyable experience the whole way through. I learned a lot about running long distances because up until that point, whenever I would run, like I said, it would just be like easy 30-minute jogs without really like a certain goal in mind. I would just do it to keep moving. But then, yeah, I decided to run the half marathon, and it gave me purpose to my running. And I eventually ran the half marathon, which I have a video on. It's a pretty good video. I talk about the whole process, and then I talk about running it. But overall, it was a really cool experience. Leading up to it, I had only run like 7 miles. That was like my longest run I had in training, which is the longest I've ever ran up until that point. But it wasn't 13.1 miles, which is what a half marathon is. I think it's 13.1, or is it 13.3. I always get it mixed up. Anyways, running that 7 miles like a few weeks before running the half marathon was pretty challenging. It was tough. So I was kind of a little nervous going into the half marathon, but I knew the day of would be a different experience from anything I've ever had running wise, just because you'd be surrounded by other runners and you'd have so much energy. Like, you'd just be in the moment knowing that this is what you were working for, which is how I felt, because when I ran it, the first 8 miles were the easiest running I've ever done in my entire life. I felt like I was just floating, and I finally got a runner's high, which I had never gotten prior to that point. Even in all my training, I would get something out of the runs, just I would never get a runner's high while I was running. But during the half marathon, I did. Those first 8 miles, I felt incredible. It was a nice, sunny fall day, and I just felt great running through. It was the city of Rochester. It was amazing. And then mile 9, 10, and 11, even 12 were hard, but they weren't anything crazy. I knew I was getting tired, but I still had a lot left in my tank. That's until I got to mile 13, which that mile was very draining. It was tough, but it was the last mile, so that's enough motivation alone to get you to the finish line. I knew I was so close, so I just kept running, and I did it. I think I did it in an hour and 54 minutes, maybe an hour and 56. My goal was, it started out under 2 hours, then as I was approaching it, I was like, all right, I'd be happy with 2 hours, under 2 hours and 15 minutes. And I think that's what I went in with hoping to achieve, and then I finished under 2 hours. So it was really cool. It was a fun experience. I would like to do maybe a half marathon again, probably that, or maybe even a full marathon. I remember thinking when I finished my half marathon, how are people doubling this? I have no idea, but I would like to try it someday. I think I could do it with some training. And then after the half marathon, I was still in that routine of going for runs and stuff, but I would go for runs and I would struggle to get even a 3-mile run done, just because I didn't really have a goal for doing it. I just kind of was running to run, which apparently doesn't work for me, because I eventually stopped running almost completely. But I really got back into hot yoga around that time. I started going to a different place. I had actually bought a membership at this point. It was $90 a month, which is crazy. That's a lot of money for a gym membership, but I think if you're someone like me who really enjoys working out and being healthy, stuff like that, it's not a crazy amount of money if you're getting good value out of it. The place I would go, it was a good place. I really liked it. Was a hot yoga place. I really liked the instructors. It was a nice studio and stuff. The only problem is they didn't have a shower, which, how much you sweat during hot yoga, I feel like not having a shower should be illegal. They didn't even really have a locker room. It's because they didn't have enough space, but it ended up being a deal breaker for me. That's why I stopped going eventually. But I did go for probably 4 or 5 months, a few times each week, which is a lot of hot yoga. But that's pretty much exclusively what I was doing. I wasn't really running much. My cardio really wasn't there, but that's okay. Hot yoga is plenty. I actually, when I first started going, I think maybe maybe it was like November. Yeah, it must have been like November, maybe October. I tried to do 10 days straight of hot yoga, which was tough. Fitting it in for 10 days straight was in itself a challenge. I had to wake up super early a lot, which I was doing anyways when I would go to classes. I'd go to like the 6 a.m. class, which seems so funny now because I sleep in so late now. But yeah, I'd get up super early and just start my day off with a really good hot yoga class. And I tried doing that for 10 days straight, which I did successfully. And that was a really interesting experiment, I guess you could call it. Like, that there were no off days, obviously. That's 10 days straight. And while it was a lot of work, the biggest thing I took from it, or the best thing about it, was it pretty much silenced like all the little voices in my head, like all the anxiety and stuff. That was pretty much completely gone by the end of it, just because I was working so hard at it, and every day I was giving like so much effort, which a hot yoga class is, that it was really something special. It was really cool. Maybe I'll do that again sometime soon. But anyways, I also got really good at hot yoga by the end of it. I remember my 10th class was something special. For one, I was doing it those 9 days before every day. So I just kind of got better at it through that. But I also knew like the next day I'd be able to take a break. And that kind of made me really happy. And it made for the best hot yoga class of my entire life. I flowed right through it. It was tough, but I felt super good after that. And like I said, like my anxiety was gone during it. And then even for like a few days after, it was just, if you're an anxious person, like I'm not a super anxious person or anything, but I feel like everyone is a little bit. Feeling like completely anxiety free is a really cool feeling. And it was definitely worth it to do those 10 days straight, because that feeling of being like anxiety free was really cool. And also was super shredded. I was super cut. You lose a lot of weight doing hot yoga. You burn a ton of calories. So yeah, that was an interesting experience. But after that, I kept doing hot yoga almost exclusively, like I said. And then I stopped probably in like January. I stopped my membership. It was just kind of too expensive, among other things. And I stopped working out for a while, which I kind of glossed over, but I would do that. It's not uncommon for me to take like a month off. I would do that maybe once, like every 2 years. But this time, I don't know, it just felt kind of different. I ended up taking longer than a month off. I took like a month completely off, tried to get back into it, didn't work out. Took like another month off. So it was like 2 months of not really doing any sort of exercise at all. It was the middle of winter, which is super rare for me. That was like the longest I had gone without like having a solid routine for something in a long time. And it was kind of weird, but it was a good reset, I would say. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. Like I like having a goal, like a bigger purpose other than just exercising and the benefits you get from that. I like having like something to shoot for. So not having that kind of threw me off, but right before, I don't know, it was like 2-3 months off, and then I started back up. I was doing spin classes that I was starting to get into. I was running still, starting to do yoga again, kind of getting back into the groove of things. And then this quarantine happened. So that pretty much ruined my groove. The weather wasn't that great, so I couldn't really run. all the gyms were closed. It wasn't where I wanted to be. Like I said, I was really getting into spin classes. Unfortunately, those were super expensive too, and there isn't a really great place that close to me, so I don't know how that would have worked out. But yeah, everything started closing, and I pretty much stopped working out again, just because, I wanted to, but I wanted to go to a gym or something, and I obviously couldn't, so I stopped for like maybe a month, and then this past month or so, I've been doing a lot of like home body weight exercises. Started doing just watching YouTube videos about yoga videos, just following along with those, and that's where I'm at now. When things start opening up again, I don't know if I will go out, look for a new gym membership or something. I don't know. We'll see. But right now I'm enjoying doing like body weight exercises, yoga. The weather's getting nicer, so I'm kind of running again. Just getting outside, going for walks sometimes. I even count that as exercise. So yeah, that's where I'm at. That's where I've been. Go out and exercise. It feels great. I know it's hard when you first get into it, but I've never done a workout that wasn't worth it. I always feel better after I do one. And yeah, I think it can benefit everybody. So go outside, do some at-home body weight workout, do some yoga, do whatever floats your boat. That is my recommendation. So yeah, good talking, and I will see you guys in the next one.